Ludwig burying his wife, Amina joining the witches, and Kieran becoming the mayor of Driftchapel.
uh,
But yes, good stuff, y'all. I'm sad it's over.
It is a little sad. It's been fun. It's been good, but it has come to a satisfying conclusion.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's the ending I think it deserves. Like, for everything to be all peachy, happy, golden, I think would be almost a smack to the face of like the horror and sadness that has been kind of the theme
It would undermine
for this place. Yeah.
And I feel like a minimum for everyone, it's just like the tinge of hope. Like, that's all that's left, and like that's all it is. That's all that Driftchapel has to offer. A little bit of hope.
Now that this cult has been dealt with, we can go back to the normal level of horrors it was to live in this world.
Yeah.
Ooh, thanks.
Exactly.
Fight the other horrible entities that are trying to break through.
You know, poverty and.
Oh man, I can't believe that only took 2 hours. That felt like a lifetime. I felt like we did so much. I'm so tired.
It's been good.
So I feel like, I mean, we can make this a whole other stream probably, but might as well do it a little bit now. Sort of do like a debrief, chat, answer some questions, talk about stuff. The first thing that I want to start with, look at Daniel. I am okay. That's a whole separate conversation. First, I'm blown away that this was your first D&D campaign, your first D&D stuff ever. Like that, I had just blown away. Phenomenal, amazing. After the scene with Amina, I went and talked to Rachel about it because it's such a complicated scene. Because whenever you first met the witches, it was such a feeling of like, oh yeah, they're manipulative, they're the most chaotic neutral or true neutral, like they're in it for themselves, they're abusive and manipulative, taking these little girls as basically prisoners, turning them into these witches, all this kind of stuff, seeing what they did to your sisters, and then you ended up with them. I was like, oh my god, what a loaded ending. I was like, I just couldn't put into words that type of ending. And I just had to throw that out there for you guys to speak on. Like, I am blown away at that type of ending.
Well, I mean, to me, like, especially after the events of our like final big bad encounter, like that just sort of like sealed the deal for me as far as what was going to happen to Amina, because like, yeah, I was thinking, okay, what would like most logically thinking people be feeling and going through right now? And they'd be fucking tired. They'd be really fucking tired of like everything about not just the encounter, but like having to deal with like the physical deformity that she's had to have, and like having to, and it only getting worse. That like, yeah, of course she's going to have to go through all of those complicated psychological holes and loops and all that. And so, but in the end, I think it was the only way that she could have gone out, because she needed, as you said, that ray of hope, and for her that was her sister.
Yeah.
And I think it was even mentioned way back when, like half a campaign ago, talking about like Cayman and Amina's curses, and this sort of like sliver of idea that you know, if the witches get their full power back away from this Katu, then they could potentially reverse the curse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that potential is still lingering a little bit, depending on which way Amina goes. And
Mm-hmm.
definitely was surprised and very satisfied by that whole idea. That was good.
Thank you.
Did not
Thanks.
expect it. Oh man.
Yeah, that's I kind of figured like Amina would go and start her own Orasterium or something like that, or go, you know, progressing in that way. But I think what you say makes sense. Like it's
Who's to say that she wouldn't?
that's fair.
She
That's
could
fair.
do it.
Yeah.
And
It's
I
true.
think I said that to Rachel in our little talk.
Bogwarts.
Bogwarts.
Like,
Oh,
bad.
damn it. New campaign idea, Bogwarts. I think I said that to
Bogwarts.
Rachel.
yes.
During our first little break, where I was like, you know, Amina could join the witches and change it from the inside, because they did sort of show some level of sympathy
Mm-hmm.
at the very end. So there's potential Amina could come in and change stuff, turn their powers for a different purpose. And yeah, oh man, yeah, that was definitely I waffled endlessly on whether or not to have Ilya swoop in at the end, like, you know, this anime, like she's suddenly there ready to save the day because, you know, her directive is to stop Katu.
Mhm.
There was part of me that was like, you know, that'll take away from the PC's agency. And then also I'm like, that would, I don't know. I feel like, I don't know. I just felt weird about it. I didn't want that to happen. I don't know. I'm glad it happened the way that it did.
Me too.
It definitely gave it a much more peaceful and, like, I don't know. It just gave
But
it a better
I
end.
think Salutic prefers that she didn't have to fight, because though she was like a fighter in terms of personality, she wasn't necessarily like a warrior.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That would have been very distracting of Salutic. Like if he had to choose between protecting Ilya and saving Kieran from the grasps of Katu, it was gonna be Ilya.
That's true.
And I wouldn't have blamed you.
How do you?
It would have definitely, I mean, like we said in the last session, like, it was just a matter of dice rolls that changed the entire direction of that encounter. But if Ilya were there, that would have just completely destroyed every aspect that I thought of. And like, you know, it was that sort of cinematic itch in me that was like, how cool would it be for Sludig and Ilya to fight side by side? But it would have changed a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yes, the
So-
witches coming back around.
Is there still a golden statue covered in tentacles and eyes somewhere?
It's technically now locked in the layer in the glass.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
obelisk.
That's right.
Yeah, and that was what I meant by, like, that was one of the final questions: is what do you guys do with that?
Yeah,
Now it's locked down in there.
that's right. We did that.
We should try to have that destroyed, or to fill in that little walkway that leads to
Concrete.
that with concrete, something. Just to keep
stone
people
wall.
from finding that, because like that could be some weird connection.
Oh, that's campaign 2.
That's true.
Well, I feel like, I mean, Amina was the one who seemed to have some kind of, like,
Yeah.
idea of what to do with it later. It could potentially be
Oh, dear.
helpful. So who knows if Amina would want something like that to happen.
Yeah, if Amina wants something destroyed, she'll just outright destroy it.
take the lamplighter pole to it. And just yeah. And oh man, I think Rachel helped decide it today because I realized like Rachel's not going to be a part of the last session, so I was like, let me get your opinions. And that was I'm glad I didn't do it in a way of just like epilogue, talk about what happens. It was like talk about what could happen. And now let's go back to what's actually happening and we hope for the best kind of thing. And that was really fun. That was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I wasn't expecting that.
Me either.
It definitely made me feel certain ways about some of your closing remarks of like what happens, and I'm like, oh man, I hope you don't die trying to escape.
No, and then when you pulled us back, and then Kieran healed us for 21 hit points, I was like, oh god, I might actually get to bury my wife.
Oh man.
Because I still had 2 rages left over, so 48 hit points can go a long way. But man,
48 hit points. I had like 24 hit points and then like 7 temp HP.
I burned through all that temp HP. Then I would have been at 3 HP if I didn't use my wholeness of body.
Yeah, that was good.
It's very good.
I think Drew has it, so I'm gonna put it on him.
It's on you.
The stopwatch with time stop.
Oh.
I was so surprised it did not pop out.
We could have used this time stop.
Because I started getting worried, like, oh my god, they might die. And I'm like, they can fucking stop time at any moment. So
That's what happens when we don't play for a month.
you forgot. You forgot. It all worked out, but man, I was surprised. It wasn't even mentioned. Not a word.
We would have been done with like the fucking Katu dead. Everything's fine.
I mean, I can't. Technically, we can't attack, but who's to say we can't just? Well, here's my 4 flasks of oil. Here's your 3.
Here's that room
your
full of oil.
Here's that
and
electric
gunpowder.
bomb thing all the way up there.
We just shove it all up Katu's butthole and then open up time.
That's okay. That means it's going to become an artifact later.
We live and we still have it.
It still exists. Oh man, that's so funny. I didn't think you had forgotten about it, but that's hilarious. Oh man. So I want to ask Bradley.
Oh.
So one of the reasons that Cayman this time, Cayman got involved in all of this was because he and Amina had something in common. Now, assuming Cayman survived all of this, made it to the end with his powers, what would Cayman have done in the end?
Assuming like this is post battle with Katu,
Yeah.
I would assume in some way, shape, or form, Cayman would have lost the powers. And kind of reducing him back to a mundane person. And at that point, I think he would have done exactly what Kieran did in a way. Like, I feel like he would have settled back into Driftchapel and made this place his home again. Maybe gone back to the city and visited with the people that like found him and rehabilitated him back to the point where he became Cayman. But more than likely just stay there, drift out, especially when everyone that he knew that survived in the Eggfell Isles shows up. Hell, he may like it, especially like had Hudson showed up and Cayman was there, Cayman probably would have left with Hudson, or at least stuck around with Hudson. I think that would have been the biggest change in what's occurred. But I'm even now I'm thinking through like how I could have or would have gone through Cayman in that fight against Katu, and like how that would have affected, because like using the gifts given by Katu against Katu, I'm sure would have been very interesting in any or every regard. Plus, somewhere out there is a lonely little gazer looking for a family.
Aww.
Malachi.
Oh, rip. Poor Malachi.
Salutig's gonna take 3 levels of Warlock
Just to get Malachi
bring
adopted.
Malachi back. Have a friend.
Sweet boy. So that's for some reason sparked another question. If you had to choose an NPC or another PC besides Kieran to be the leader of Driftchapel, who would it be?
That survived?
Yeah. Well,
None.
in general, we'll say any NPC you've met.
Roseanne. The way, if she was able to keep that tavern in check during all this stuff, imagine what she could have done for the city.
That's true.
That's true, actually.
Yeah.
Very true.
I like that answer a lot. And you know, even though she was weird and had stuff going on, before today's session, I wouldn't have even included Agnes as a runner-up up there. The
Lavidia?
Lavidia King,
The
sorry.
taxidermist.
Agnes Wood. Yeah, the taxidermist. Because, like,
Big twist.
you know, she was able to also keep her business. She was helping people out. Even though it was weird stuff with the mayor, she thought she was helping, as far as we know. But then the 30 bodies just in the basement. I was like, oh, yeah, she is no longer on the ticket.
of people that we
Lost
knew.
the nomination.
Yeah.
Like there were people who were alive at the beginning of the campaign who died while we were there because she was murdering them.
Yes.
You lost your ticket, honey. Don't come back.
There was so, and you guys can start asking questions too. For this supplement, Shadows Over Driftchapel, which you can find on absolutetabletop.com, there were 6 named NPCs, and each one had a table they could roll their secrets on. And of course, if there's a different secret, it kind of changes the story a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And Lavidia's, one of hers was that she had people taxidermied in her basement.
Ooh, creepy.
One of the others, her other 2 secrets were potentially she dabbles in forbidden necromantic magic to bring her pets to life.
Ooh.
Nice.
Huh.
And the other one, which I would have thought, I wanted it to be this one, because the people in the basement, that's too juicy of a secret not to utilize. Because the moment I mentioned to you guys, like, there was
There's a
locked
locked
cellar,
basement.
that
Yep.
was enough. So I had to use that one. But the alternative secret was she's in love with Agnes Wood, the Ortist,
Oh.
and schemes to flee Driftchapel with her.
Aw.
And that would have been such a
That's so
different little
cute.
story. Yeah, that would have been so different.
Oh yeah.
I
A
almost
tiny
used both
other
of them.
light of hope in the
Yeah.
town.
I almost used both of those.
Did she kill her husband so that she could be with Agnes?
Oh, ho, ho.
Maybe
Mhm.
that was not
Probably.
the intent, but that could be a very good story. Maybe they fled together since they fled at the same time.
Yeah, that headcanon. Yeah, that's what's happening.
Yeah. So,
God, does Agnes know about the bodies? Is
And-
she safe? Where is Agnes? Is she safe?
where's Agnes?
Is
She alive?
she one of the bodies? I had this thought like after Kieran passed, and we did the session that I observed where it was the 2 of you playing, and like you talked to the Bog Witches, but like made the decision not to bring Kieran or Cayman back to life through the Bog Witches. There's a part of me that thought like, what's up with Lavidia King? Like, there's got to be something different going on there. What if I talked to Logan and would be like, can I Frankenstein Cayman back into this through Lavidia, and just then like see how that would react? But by that point, it's like, nah, that's too much. I'll just bring in another PC. It'll be fine.
I definitely would have allowed it. It would have definitely been some backwards fucking shit, but that would have
Like other people's body parts instead of
Yeah.
like go straight up
Oh,
Frankenstein.
man.
so morbid.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, that would have been creepy as hell.
that would have been fucked up.
Mhm.
And that's all I wanted to do with the Bog Witches, honestly, was put the idea into all of your heads of reanimation,
Hmm.
because then that changes so much of
Yep.
potentially what could happen. So I'm glad you at least thought about Lavinia King and her weird
In her
skills.
weird people basement.
No one knew about it. Technically, no one knows about it except Kieran.
Yeah, and I
Sure.
I buried that
And
secret,
you
and we're
got
not
rid of
gonna
all
talk
the
about
evidence,
it.
so hopefully no one will ever know about the
If she
weird
comes back, just put a bullet in her head, and we'll call it a day. It's fine.
Hmm.
There's no need for a trial in that case.
I mean, she's clearly not trying to show it off, so...
Yeah,
I mean,
no.
Yeah, invite her to the Birdsong Estate on like mayoral business, and then oh no, she attacked the mayor. We had to.
No, not even. Yeah, she showed up and we killed her. If you want to ask, you can ask, but I'm not going to tell you. Fuck off.
So
Use a little bit of that executive privilege.
So I want to answer y'all's questions. What burning questions do you have, or curiosities you want answered?
I have one. So in this universe, the map that we have is gigantic, and I think I've already mentioned it before, but like theoretically, so like in our campaign we just stuck around like Driftchapel and went as far as the Erwile Bog. Could we have theoretically like gone all over the dang place? Could we have actually been globetrotters, like, or does the story kind of confine itself to Driftchapel?
So it's yes, but. So yes, the story is confined mostly to Driftchapel, but as a DM, a long-time DM, I would have let you globetrotted to your heart's content. You would have seen how the Gloam affects all the rest of the world. But if you ever head back to Driftchapel, then you would have seen what state it would have been in at that point. So like you guys, you moderately, like very microscopically globetrotted, just going to the bog and then back. And you saw the state that Driftchapel devolved into just in the 2 weeks or whatever it was.
I'm trying to think about how fucked we would have been if we had walked around for a couple months.
So it definitely would have been, you return to Driftchapel and it's swarming with cultists and deep ones. And basically, it's not just a town that's been destroyed by a cult, it's a town that has become a cult. And so now it's just completely taken on a different tone. So you definitely could have globetrotted. It would have just made Driftchapel a much different town to jump around in.
Right.
Because
Okay.
there's, and that's the thing, if you read a lot of the lore of the rest of the world, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of Gloam stuff happening in other corners of the world that they're dealing with, and Driftchapel is just a portion of it. So it would have been very different to jump around and see the world.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know if I can... There's a place called the Black Fields.
I was looking at that.
It's also on the
map.
same page as the Eggfeld Isles. It just... Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can...
that doesn't look too good.
Let me turn off my little background thing here. If I can. Apply visual effects. None. So, sorry, Absolute Tabletop. I'm going to show this artwork. Look at that. It's people.
That's so fucking. It's people made of tar and ichor.
Mm.
Like,
No.
that's what lies beyond some of the world here. And it's just... And also, like, the societies that do exist, they're falling apart, they're crumbling and all sorts of stuff. So, like, I would definitely be interested in exploring other corners of the globe and stuff like that.
Campaign 2, Shadows
Campaign 2.
over
Other place.
Rhinestead, Shadows
So
over.
are we retiring
Karnstead.
these characters, coming in with new PCs? If
Yo,
we
level
do something?
20 campaign, but with rules. Also, this is more for Bradley Drew. How did y'all feel about the long-term, the prolonged healing rules, the extended downtime, the gritty realism, the downtime stuff, all that?
I love it. 5e, you feel like
You're
gods
super
in
smart.
terms of like death risk. your DM has to be trying to kill you for normal healing rules, especially once you're 11th, 12th level. Otherwise, like, you might go down, but like the other PCs are still so much of a threat that it makes more sense to, unless it's the healer, go after them. But this, man, I felt as though everything had to be planned, resources had to be used so wisely.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so different from the 5e that we're used to, and it makes it a lot more fun, a lot more exciting. It does put a lot more onus on classes and subclasses that use short rest mechanics, because otherwise you're not going to get to use anything.
Yeah.
And in that regard, again, it's a little like when I came back creating a character for round 2. I was like, I looked at it and I said, like, I would like to have some form of healing mechanically in the game. And I looked through, I was like, you know, if I want to play a cleric or a caster of any kind with magic, that's spell slots I'm getting once a week, maybe if we actually take a break.
Yeah.
So but it was fun getting to theorycraft and come up with a non-magical healer, and that's something I've always
how you
wanted
view
to do.
the classes and races and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I think it's awesome. I love the idea of the night-long short rest and everything else. I just maybe alter one or two things to make some of the other long rest dependent classes a little more viable.
Yeah. There was so one of the, I don't feel like going to get the book that's over here. I can't point properly. So there's I really thought about implementing it in the last fight, but there is the mechanic called healing surges in the Dungeon Master's Guide, where it's similar to Second Wind, where it's you use your action to basically roll your however many hit dice up to half to regain hit points for your turn in combat, and you can do that once per short rest, certain number of times per short rest, I don't remember. But it's sort of a healing mechanic for everyone per long rest, excuse me. And I thought that was interesting. I almost did it for this, but I was like, I want to try each one, like each thing kind of independently. But I almost implemented it for the final fight of just like, you guys can heal as an action if you want to, just to kind of get it interesting.
Taking some pressure off.
Yeah. But I definitely agree that there's definitely some subclasses like Rogue or Warlock that shine in that kind of mechanic versus, you know, Cleric who might suffer.
I think we dabbled in that.
I think for a system like this one where it was kind of lower magic, the wizards for the most part have been either hunted out of existence, divine magic is all but gone. It kind of makes sense for it to be harder to like memorize this knowledge, find the knowledge, or just for sorcerers in general, the bloodlines not being there anymore. So, but
and I'm definitely like, they have by they I mean Absolute Tabletop. Shout out absolutetabletop.com. This is like one of 3 adventure kits, I believe. So spell anything. I know they have this one, which is a horror sort of Victorian gas lamp-esque thing with firearms and minimal technology, that kind of stuff. They also have, Oath of the Frozen King, which is classic fantasy. Very standard. But they also have, not Dragon Grin. Maybe it's only on their Patreon. They had another one. I don't think it's Dragon Grin. For some reason, my gut's telling me that's not right. They have another one that's sort of like, it's non-existent right now. So never mind. I won't talk about it because I think it was a Patreon specific thing. But they also have a classic fantasy version of an adventure kit. And one thing I really liked about this was the sort of leveling of stat blocks. And the main thing that I loved from this was that it made damage kind of a lump thing and attack bonus is a lump thing. So, for example, we'll take something you guys regularly saw, Occultist. It's the number one stat block in the book. The damage is divided up by levels. So for levels 1 through 4, it's 1d6. 5 through 10, 2d6. 11 through 16, 2d10. And 17 through 20, 4d8.
I like that.
And it makes it easy because then you don't have to worry about, like, how much damage does this thing do? Oh, they're wielding a dagger, they have to use this. It's just blanket, like, I'm going to have this cultist, quote, and peek behind the curtain. This cultist is going to cast Toll the Dead. You make a wisdom saving throw, regardless, it's going to do that much damage.
Yeah.
Their saving throw is whatever their bonus is plus 8, and that's what it is for all of them. And so it's this very easy across the board, like, this thing does this damage regardless of what it does. And so for that final fight, I think I may have mentioned it on stream, like, the avatar does 4d10 damage for levels 11 through 16, which means, like, for one thing, it could roll 4 damage. For other things, it could roll 40 damage and anywhere in between. And so, even though it is wildly random in that respect, it made it much more difficult and much more engaging than just regular, like, it's gonna roll 2d8 damage. Alright, we're done.
And it made for some very cinematic moments in combat.
Definitely.
Because it was like, oh man, scratches. You were stunned, and Katsu just picked you up and slung you against the wall.
It hurt a lot.
It definitely, and that's, and like, I'm just gonna keep plugging this module. It's not necessarily this module, it's probably all of their adventures kits. Only basically half of the book is a toolbox. So it's random generations of madness effects, Gloam effects, encounter random tables, random rumors, locations, NPCs, monsters, all that kind of good stuff. But specifically, there is a 2-page spread here that has a table of how the monster acts, their threat level, whether they're a minion, a skirmisher, a vanguard, or a nemesis, which I like that. And that same table has their hit points, their AC, and what they have to hit or to their difficulty class. And then the damage table, and then a small table of their bonus features, whether they have multi-attack or a heightened AC or spells or whatever it might be. And just those on this page, those 3 tables alone, I could probably run an entire D&D campaign.
Yeah,
that's it. Like, it's all of the numbers you need.
That's amazing.
And the dice and nothing else.
Wizards take
that's
note.
Beautiful to me.
Wizards take note.
Flop between so many different monster manuals and everything.
I enjoyed that the most. I used most of the stat blocks provided in the book, but that table shaped a lot. Like, whenever I wanted to homebrew certain things, like the fight with Aveline, I homebrewed a bit. I basically made her a normal person with some of the stuff from in there. It was, I highly recommend. It's D&D, but D&D very easy for the DMs, ultimately.
Which is what's important.
What's important.
That's wonderful. That actually brings to mind a question. You said that way back when we first met Farah, you had it set up so that depending on what our actions were, that could have actually turned into a combat encounter.
Yes.
Now I'm curious, like, what that would have looked like.
So, I believe I think it's changed books since then, but there's a stat block, a monster called the Corpse Flower.
Yeah.
Mordenkainen's Stone of Food, right?
And it is a sentient flower that eats dead bodies. That's the basics of it. But I wanted to take the mechanics of that stat block and apply it to Farah, a sentient person, basically. So it would have been that stat block, plus maybe a few extra layer things, because as you guys traveled through the swamp, she has control over a lot of the biome around her. So there would have been a little extra stuff mixed in there, but there would have been a lot of stuff of, I think the corpse flower, it's like she can grab a body and basically use it as a bolstering thing to empower like hit points and whatever else. So
That would have been bad with the whole basement full of bodies.
basement full of
It would have
bodies.
been bad if one of us went down
One
and then
of you
just
went
gobble,
down.
gobble, gobble.
And then also some layer stuff using the swamp to her advantage. So it would have been interesting. I definitely planned for that, but actually, you know what? I won't even say I didn't think you would do it. I thought you would end up killing her, Daniel, because I thought you would have thought it like putting her out of her misery kind of thing. So I was kind of surprised when you kind of leveled with her and talked with her. I was a little surprised.
What can I say? I'm full of surprises.
It's a good
I'm
surprise.
full of surprise. That was good. And yes, and a question that wasn't even asked, but I wanted to, for whoever might chime in for a VOD later. And by the end of the month, I will post all the missing VODs so you can watch them all. I'll probably separate this little question answer section for a separate VOD for spoilers' sake, but Hudson, the Crow's Feather, Lady Whitehand, all the people. If you tuned into our one shot with Bradley, Jacob, and Rachel, you were the only
That was
three?
it.
I dropped in a lot of Eggfeld Isles lore and background, focused on Cayman, but it kind of expanded to everything else happening in the Gloam and the Eggfeld Isles. And you would recognize Lady Whitehand's name, Hudson as an NPC, and the boat, the Crow's Feather. Those all made a very significant appearance in that one shot. So,
And who knows? Maybe there's a little Erasmus Scrump.
I was very close to saying like, yeah, so me, all these people, Lady Whitehand, and my friend Erasmus made it here. I
And
was
this
so close.
individual. Oh, hi there, guys.
Yeah, but from what I recall, they made it sound like their characters left well before the final days of the Eggfeld Isles, so I didn't include them, but I really wanted to. But yeah, so check out that one shot when it comes out on YouTube. That was fun. That was a good one shot.
It was.
But
I look forward to many more in this world.
in this world, maybe. My plan is to run a variety of short campaigns or one shots using different systems. Maybe streaming them depending on who's involved and if they want to do that. But I definitely want to touch on shows over Driftchapel some more. Maybe one day we'll delve into their classic D&D thing, the Oath of the Frozen King. That'd be very fun. And also Mecha Hack. Love some Mecha Hack from Absolute Tabletop.
Mecha hack.
Very fun. But I've got plenty, dozens of tabletop RPGs I want to try out. I guess first, do you guys have any more questions or things you want clarified?
Not at the moment. I'm sure I'll come up with more.
Yeah, as I think on it obsessively.
I'll say it because I need the toilet cat, so it sounds like a great time to
Yeah.
end it there. So thank you, my wonderful players, for doing this. It took a year or more.
Year and a half. I
Year
think
and a
is what we
half?
discussed.
Yeah. Session
Oh, but we
0,
made it.
we dialed it back, was December of
2020.
2020.
Yep.
Peak pandemic.
Holy shit. We did it. We made it to the end. Many more to come. Thank you, people who have hung out. I know in the past, the Spoon Legion.
Yes.
Spoon
chimed
Legion.
in to the
We gotta do
early-
House of... What
We
was
gotta
it, House
do-
of Forts? Or
It was Game of Drawers.
Game of Drawers.
the utensil.
We've got to
themed.
do Game of Drawers.
So thank you to Spoon Leisha for hanging out at the beginning. Thank you for Absolute Tabletop, Tabletop Terrors, Tim, Fistful of Dice, Matt. Thank you for chiming in on it for a few sessions. It meant the world to me. I don't know if I ever made that well known, but that meant the world to me. Also, Absolute Tabletop. The thing I'm thinking about is a Kickstarter called The Battle for Arctur's Vault. And it is a high magic themed adventure kit.
Yes, please.
Lots of magic,
Fun.
lots
Yes,
of
please.
supernatural stuff.
Magic, magic.
I'm in. What level?
I'm in. Yes, what level?
All the levels.
I'll get started.
But thank you to everyone. Thank you for Jacob for hanging out and saying what's up, pals. Thank you to people for resubscribing and following. I need a toilet cat terribly, so we're gonna end the stream there. Thank you to everyone. I hope to see you tomorrow for the daylight for
Logan.
tomorrow. Bradley,
What's the weather like in Driftchapel?
what's the weather like in Driftchapel?
No, I'm asking you.
You're
What's it
asking
like?
me? I need a
Oh.
toilet cat. I'll toilet cat, and you guys can talk about it for a second.
All you had to say was one
Okay.
word, and then we could have ended stream.
I mean, but didn't we see it? It's sunny,
It's sunny. It's clear, wide open skies.
which is weird.
It is.
We get one day. Enjoy it.
One day. And now we sit here awkwardly because we can't end the stream.
Yep.
High magic. That would be a lot of fun. Either one of
I
us.
mean, I already got a character in mind that could perfectly fit into that. So
I got like
Yeah, I got a Google Drive full.
it's each. It's like making your own puzzle, creating the own problems you want to solve, and it's so much fun.
mm-hmm.
It's an interesting way of putting it. I like it.
That's true. It's very true.
Oh God, because building Sludig for this was fun and a challenge because I was like, when we started, I was gonna be the only person who was really tanky.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
I was
still
like, I
kinda
gotta
are.
be able to just eat hits.
Yeah.
We won't heal for shit. And man, it worked out. Sludig was a lot of fun to play.
That's true.
The weather is sunny, Logan.
I was gonna say that too. I was gonna say sunny and hopeful. All right, that sounds like a great place to stop. Sunny and hopeful.
It's
Good
been a blast.
evening, good night, everybody.
Thanks.
Hope to see you very soon.
And if I don't see you again,